my senior year, I literally have a picture of all of my roommates. They were engaged October, November, December of my senior year at Baylor. And like after I took that picture at an engagement party, I just cried. Sorry. um because I was like, God, why haven't you done it for me? Like, why have you done it for everybody else, but you haven't done it for me? My name's Jenna, and I thought I'd be married by 22.
Hey, Jenna. Thanks for coming in. How you feeling?
Good, good.
So you said you wanted to be married by 22. How old are you now?
I'm 28.
So why did you think that?
I feel like every girl, when they're growing up, we've been discipled by culture, and we all want to wear the pretty dress. We want to be saved by the prince on a white horse. We want to be pursued. We want to be loved and desired. And it's always been a dream of mine to be married and to be a mother. And I think it is a God dream, but I've had to endure the waiting season and watch all of my friends receive the gift that I've always wanted.
Hmm. When would you say you first remember desiring marriage? Like, how old were you think?
I I remember I was 6 years old, and I got a princess dress, and I was just wearing it. And like one day, like I'll have my own Prince Charming. And so it's always been a dream to wear a white dress and walk down the aisle and have a fairy tale happy ending.
What about that is so appealing to you?
I think growing up, I think I was searching for a lot of things to make me feel whole and not knowing my identity or knowing my value. And I thought, oh, if I have this strong, stable husband, then he will make me feel valuable or desirable, because I didn't believe those things about myself.
Why do you feel like you didn't believe those?
I think I came to Jesus at a later age in life. I grew up in a fairly Christian home where we went to church like Christmas and Easter. And so I didn't really know who God was on a relational level. And so I was trying to figure out, who am I? What is my purpose in this world? And I never felt like I had anything to offer to the world besides, oh, I just want to be married. Like, I went to college in mind, I'm going to get an MRS degree, like in the back of my mind. Maybe not consciously, but definitely subconsciously. And so when I met Jesus and I heard the gospel at a Christian summer camp called Frontier Ranch when I was 16 years old, and my young life leader asked me, hey, do you know, have you given your life to Jesus before? And I was like, what does that mean? And she explained it to me, and I prayed, and I was like, I want Jesus. And in that moment, I met the man of my dreams. And the only way I can describe it, which I think is important because I'm going to go back to that in sharing this part of the story, but is I had a supernatural encounter with the love of God. And, sorry. Where I just felt like the manifestation of heaven and this liquid joy and this person that I gave my life to. And I think it was upon meeting Jesus, God took me on a journey of him becoming the one for me and inviting me into, like, Jenna, like, do you trust me even if it doesn't look like how you want it to look? And at the end of the day, like, asking the Lord, my mentor actually posed this question. She said, Jenna, like, if this never happened for you, would Jesus still be enough? And I had to wrestle with that because he wasn't enough when I went into college.
Mm. You said that you've been in 9 weddings.
Yes.
Is that correct? As a bridesmaid?
Yes. People have said I'm like the real life 27 dresses girl.
What is that? I don't have that reference. What does that mean?
So it's a movie with Katherine Heigl, very famous, where she was the perpetual bridesmaid. And she kind of puts on this front like she always wanted to be married, but it just never happened for her. And she had to watch all of her friends get married. And it's I feel like it's a beautiful analogy, even in the Christian world, of where nobody wants that story. We live in an instant world, and we want what we want now, and we're not willing to endure or wait for it, or invite God into the process.
What would you say you've learned from going to all those weddings and being a bridesmaid? I mean, I can imagine the feelings that you felt every single time you went to one were up and down, up and down. How was that process for you?
I would say in college, it was definitely the hardest because I was still learning my identity in Christ. And so I still had that mindset of, okay, like this is the dream. This is the goal. I just want Jesus to bless it. And so for 5 years in college, like I was a cheerleader. I was in a sorority. I was doing everything I thought that I needed to do in order to be holy enough, in order to be like worthy for God to bless me. And I watched all of my friends get pursued and asked out on dates, and I was hidden. And it was like the mercy of God over my life that I wasn't seen in that season. And because my senior year, I literally have a picture of all of my roommates. They were engaged October, November, December of my senior year at Baylor. And like after I took that picture at an engagement party, I just cried. Sorry. um because I was like, God, why haven't you done it for me? Like, why have you done it for everybody else, but you haven't done it for me? And so I learned in that season, okay, I am going to I'm like not going to be like self-pity or self-sabotage, and I'm going to be the best friend, and I'm going to celebrate people really well. But I still had in the back of my mind, like, what do I have to do in order for God to bless me? And so I was just looking around. I was like, okay, my friends, they're all blonde. And so I was like, I need to be blonde in order to be desirable. Because I'm not being seen, I'm not being pursued. And so maybe there's something wrong with me, or I'm not desirable, or my faith is not mature enough, or I don't know God enough. And maybe I'm just being tested, or I'm not content. And so I was like, in life group, I was doing all the right things and it still wasn't happening. And I was just really wrestling with God one day, and he was like, Jenna, do you trust like my plan for your life? Like, do you trust that I'm good? Even if you have to wait longer than all of your friends. And I was like, no, I don't want to be the last one, because I even had this I always felt like there wasn't going to be enough for me. Like if I didn't go first, then like there wouldn't be enough. Like if there's 12 donuts and there's 13 people and I ended up last, I'm like, oh, I didn't get it. Or God would have forgotten me, or forgotten that, oh, I want this too.
Where do you think that comes from? Do you remember a time when you were younger where you felt like there wasn't going to be enough for you? Can you remember the first time you like felt that?
I think I think growing up, I feel like I never like I would look at all my friends and they would have all the things. And I feel like I never had a lot of the same things that my friends had, or feel like they never had to struggle, or they never had to walk through such hard things. And I think there was just a lot of comparison was the root of that. Like I was constantly comparing me, like my life, to other people or who I am, or it just being really insecure.
So take that back, that mindset back to college. You see all your girlfriends getting engaged, and so you never got asked out in college.
Okay, I wouldn't say that. It was 2 times I know on the top of my head, but nothing like really. It was like in freshman year, and then once like my junior year, but nothing like significant. Like I a lot of my friends were just going on dates all the time, and they were getting asked out, and I was in this perpetual drought where there'd be a desert season of like 4 years, and then I would get asked out for like 3 times, and then another season of 3 or 4 years where I wouldn't at all. And
I want to go back to that comparison piece. Where do you feel like that really began? Because it sounds like this initial desire to be a princess when you were 6 was like a God-given thing. When did it become a comparison thing? Do you remember?
I feel like the comparison was a deep-seated root of, again, like not knowing who I was. And insecurity comes out of that place if you do not know your identity and your value in God. And so being saved at a later age, I feel like it almost, like my process of learning who I was started end of high school and really took root where God formed himself in me in the early years of college, throughout like my post-college years. So I think it does stem from that. And when you don't know who you are, you look for all of these things to say, like, okay, am I beautiful? Am I enough? Am I worthy? Am I desirable? And like, we will change our hair. We'll change everything about ourselves in order to be loved, valued, and accepted. And the lie of culture is, I like, unless this guy finds me desirable, then I'm not desirable. Or unless this happens, then I'm like not whole or loved. And in the Christian world, it can get really messy too, because it's like, this is God's design for marriage is holy and righteous and good. Like, that desire is good. Like, there's nothing wrong with me for desiring that, but when it's in the God spot of your heart, it's not a gift. And God really has protected me in where, in my early years of where insecurity and comparison was just a breeding ground, and he worked that out with me to where when that does happen, it's not going to fulfill my life. It's just going to add to my life, and it will be a gift.
Mm-hmm. So where would you say you're at now with all of this?
Honestly, it's been really hard, but really good. Like, singleness ebbs and flows, and it's not a perfect linear line. Like, I'll have good seasons and I'll have bad seasons where I feel super content and I am like, Jesus, you are enough. And then other days where I'm like, this is really painful. And looking back now, I mean, this year I will have been a bridesmaid in 5 weddings. And there is a testimony in my heart that I don't see the same, like, I don't see it in the same light. Like, it doesn't bring me pain anymore. Like going to another wedding, I actually have a real authentic love for my friends. And, Revelation says the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, which simply means like the testimony in someone's life, like just because it happens in someone else's life doesn't mean it's not going to happen in my life. And learning that at a heart level, where growing up the narrative was there's not going to be enough for me. It's like, no, if it happens in someone else's life, like it's a testimony that God can do it and he actually wants to do it. And it is the constant sanctification in my mind and my heart of, okay, as painful as it has been to wait and endure for God's timing, like I'm going to choose him and his ways. And I'm not going to try to make something happen on my own. And also just continue to keep hope in that area of my life, and that I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be holy enough. Like the love of God is, it covers us even in our weaknesses. And what I learned is he doesn't bless us based on how perfect I can be in the Christian church world. Like we are his kids, and he's a good father, and learning how to trust him and his ways when you don't understand has definitely been a hard fought battle that I'm still working through.
Yeah, how do you wrestle through God being a good father who doesn't withhold, and the reality that you're not married and that's what you want?
Mm-hmm. I think going back to my dream as a little girl, like I didn't really have many dreams for my life. And so I feel like God has taught me, I don't really know if this is going to answer that question, but this is what I feel like I'm supposed to share. I feel like God has taught me, like, hey, your life is much more valuable than just being married. Like, I have a lot more things. Like, you have so much to offer to the world, to a dying and broken world that I think it has caused me to dream bigger for my life and to put things in perspective of, okay, we're not living for like this world, but we're living for eternity, and reconciling that reality at the same time as this really is a God-given dream. And do I trust that God, like if I put this dream in his hands, that he's going to take care of it, and he's going to be tender with the desires of our heart. And I love how we were talking about Psalm 37, delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. Like that is, we so badly want a formula, and I took that verse and I prescribed it as a formula, of, okay, if I do this will happen. And that's not it. It is, hey, delight when you fall in love with me. Like there's a beautiful exchange that happens where his desires become your desires. And when I realized that in college, that, oh, this desire isn't going away, okay, how do I walk with God in it? He actually just wanted to purify it, and he wanted to be the number one in my heart and put his dream in the right order. And so I think it's just realizing this is a God dream and there's nothing wrong with me. And am I willing to trust him?
Has there been anything in the last, now I guess 6 years, it's been 6 years since your initial thought of being married at 22. Is there anything, any verse or truth that you've really just hung on to that's helped carry you through the years of not having what you want?
Mm-hmm. The verse that comes to mind is Psalm 27, I think, where it says, I would have lost heart had I not believed the goodness of God in the land of the living. And I think that applies to all areas of our life, whatever we're waiting on God for, because the process is the same. You just fill in the blank because we're all believing God for something, and we are living for eternity, but we're also like, I do have permission to believe that that I will see God's goodness in the land of the living. And a lot of my story has been the exchange of my will for his will. And if I could tell my 22-year-old self what I know now, is it's worth it. It's worth it. And to not give up hope, because I feel like the waiting and enduring and seeing it happen for other people, like it can be really, really weary. And like the enemy of our faith is discouragement and disappointment. And if we believe that God can turn anything for good, if we truly believe his character and his nature, like in every area of our life, like, and not trying to make something happen in our own flesh because we didn't get it. We didn't get what we want when we wanted it. And I feel like I would tell myself, hey, don't worry about it. And just focus on him, because I feel like I wasted a lot of time and mental capacity and in space trying to figure it out and wrestling.
You said that God kind of told you that you're here to offer so much more to the world than what you thought. What are some of those ways that God has shown you in your singleness that you get to offer the world?
I feel like God has invited me on a beautiful journey of faith and put me in rooms that I could have never dreamed of being in, and being a part of influencing people for the kingdom that I never would have thought. That if I was married, I would have never been able to do the things that I had the privilege of doing, and impact culture and be a conduit of change in our nation. And that a lot of my friends didn't get to do. And so I feel like the invitation is being a part of if you think of a tapestry, and like our lives are all intertwined and we're all a part of God's big story of his redemption for the earth. And we have an invitation to be a part of that plan and that story. And I feel like my calling is to impact this generation, to fight for truth, to stand in their identity, and to not give up faith, because we are in a cultural war. And I feel like my singleness has awakened the reality of the God's big picture. Not that God has forgotten that dream. And I feel like, oh, if I lose myself in God, then God will forget that dream if I'm not thinking about it. Like, that's a lie. It's like, no. The Bible says if we lose our life for his sake, we'll find it. That's how I answer
Yeah.
that.
It's interesting. You said that you felt like singleness has kind of given you this passion to fight for truth and fight for your identity. Earlier you talked about how growing up you wrestled so much with your identity, and how that was like a key desire of marriage was to find a sense of identity, correct? So would you are you saying that, like, or would you say that those two pieces of your life are really connected? Like the passion that you have to encourage other people to fight for identity, and your own story of seeing how badly you want a marriage because of your lack of identity.
Oh, it's absolutely connected. I feel like God could have sanctified me through anything. Like he could have used anything, because suffering is no respecter of persons. And it is through my experience and my the way that I grew up, the opportunities that I've had, the people that I've been around, that I feel like God has given me the credibility to speak into girls' lives that are just like me, where they're in college and they are trying to figure out who they are, and they, all the things that I felt, like God's always using it for good. And so my testimony in it's very much connected to where we've had the greatest breakthroughs, where we'll have the greatest place of authority to speak on and to speak from experience, and how God led me from here to here, and how, like, if I could teach a girl anything, is like, you are already whole in Jesus, and you already have the man of your dreams. But at the same time, you don't have to give up hope that God will be good and kind to you in that area.
Yeah, I can imagine that being a really difficult reality to hold on to. It seems like there's almost two realities that you have to hold on to.
Yeah.
God being this God that loves you and is enough, but then if you still have a desire.
Yes. It's hard.
So how do you even encourage somebody who it's like, no, I have this God-given desire that's not there. So how can you tell me that I'm supposed to be just content when I have this desire that God gave me?
Yeah. And how I would answer that is, well, one, if I could see my life from heaven's perspective and be like, okay, this is what it's going to look like. I don't want to be single. That's it. And I think the lie that I believed, because I went to all the dating sermons, I went to all the things, like you name it. I heard it, podcasts, and I was like, I need to figure this out. I need to help God. And I think it was, can you say that question one more time?
Yeah, I mean, just I guess the question was, how do you encourage somebody with that?
Okay. Um, yeah, so the narrative that I heard in college ministry, young adult ministry, consistently was, if you just don't desire it, then it will go away. And if you lose your life in God, and you don't desire it anymore, you try to kill it, then it will happen for you. Not in those exact words, but that's what it felt like. And I wrestled with that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to, like, this is my prescription. If I do this, this will happen. And so upon wrestling with God, okay, what do I believe about this? What do I believe about God? I feel like I was in prayer one day and I had this picture of of the altar, like how Abraham sacrificed Isaac. And I put marriage on the altar and I was so afraid of giving it to God. Like it was going to be sacrificed, like it was going to be killed, it was going to be gone. And when I put marriage on the altar, I felt like the Holy Spirit spoke to me and he said, Jenna, what happens when you put this in my hands is it's not killed, it's purified. And so that desire for marriage is good and it's from me, but I'm going to purify it. And what surrender and contentment actually looks like is trusting me, focusing on me, and I think it really set me free in a lot of ways that, okay, me desiring marriage wasn't bad, that it was good and holy and righteous, but it was in the wrong place. And I think learning, like God walking me through that was really transformative for me, because I feel like so many young women, I mean, I hear it all the time. Hundreds of women that I've counseled and spoke to, where they're asking God the same questions. And they're like, well, I'm doing all the right things and I'm still desiring it. Like, why isn't it going away? Like, why is that pain still there? And I was like, that's not a bad thing to desire. It's not. It is good. Like, if it's not going away, then that means it's most likely from Him. But God also doesn't want you to focus on it, because it's like the matters of the heart are can really take you out. And because they're so precious to God, and they're so precious to, like, whatever you're believing for. If you're believing for a baby, you're believing for marriage, two things that are God's design, and you have to endure suffering for it. It's like we can really think a lot of things that aren't true about God. Like, does God love me? Has God forgotten me? You know, so it is like navigating those things. That's the tension of our faith. How do I be content in God, not in singleness? It's content in God. And also, how do I have faith in this area of my life? Like, even if it doesn't happen until I'm 40, 50, 60 years old. Like, that is the question of our faith in the mystery of God's will. And it's also letting go of control too.
How do you not look at God and think it's kind of, if it's true that God gives you a desire and then tells you not to focus on it, how is that not cruel?
I feel like I've asked that question a few times in the last year. Um, and if I think about, I always go back to that encounter when I was 16 years old of the goodness of God. And just reminding myself, okay, this is who God is, and He doesn't change. Even though, like, my life has looked nothing the way that I thought it would, and it's felt really disappointing, and it's felt like, so I feel like, I'm like, why do I have to go through the harder things? Why do I have to, it feels like my life is really narrow, and I think it's like wrestling with the mystery of God, like having to consistently land in the same place over and over and over again, like being anchored in His promises that He will never leave nor forsake us, like going back to the simple truths and letting that be the place I land every single time, even if there's been like disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. And that's with anything in our life, because we live in a fallen world, and like we are anticipating Jesus's return, and until He comes back, like we will see in part, like we will not see face to face. And so that is part of the wrestle of our faith, and I'm definitely still working through that. But it is, even when you have those questions, like you have permission to wrestle with God and lament and be raw and vulnerable and say, God, like, I actually don't like my life right now. Like, this is nothing the way I thought it would be. And like, this can't, I feel like I said this a few months ago to one of my friends. I was like, I just don't understand how this could be God's will. Um, but it is in the process of the wrestle where we actually find the living God. And that's where the supernatural meets the natural, where God actually can do a miracle in your heart, mind, and soul. And it is something supernatural, like a supernatural grace where that God gives us to endure trials.
Hmm. If you had an opportunity to like go back and talk to your 6-year-old self in her princess dress, what would you tell her?
I would tell her um, that she is beautiful, that she is worthy, she is desirable and wanted, that she is pursued. And I would also say, like, God's got it. Because there has to be this grit in your soul and this endurance to be like, no, like I'm going to be like Jacob and I'm going to wrestle with God. And I would tell my 16-year-old self, because how many years is that later? It's 8? No, math. 10, 12 years. It's been 12 years. To endure for 12 years. Like, I mean, in the greater scheme of life, it's not that long, but it is a long time, and it's almost half my life now. I would say, to not give up. Hope. Because hope is all we have in this life until he calls us home. And so if we don't have hope, then what are we doing? You know? And I think, one, I also heard the narrative in college where it's like, you're not promised marriage. That's true. But also, not everybody's called to singleness. And more often than not, like, if I had a percentage, like, you will be married. It's just, are we willing to do things God's way? And are we willing to lay down our will for his will? So I think that's the key. So endurance, you're worthy, and he's worth it, is what I would say.
Yeah, I can't imagine, but I do recognize in other areas for myself, oftentimes there is a lie that if you would just do XYZ, then God would do XYZ. Talk a little bit about how that pressure in your life, like how it's hurt you and how you combat that mindset of, if I just did this, then then God would have given me a marriage, or if I would just do this, then that'd be enough.
I think everybody's story is different. Everybody's walk is different. And I've had a lot of perspective over the years of where I've seen, I mean, not personal friends, but people I've known who they got married really young, and their spouse woke up one day and was like, I don't want to follow Jesus anymore. And, or they have gotten divorced, or marriage was really disappointing and it wasn't what they expected. And so seeing all of those stories and been like, okay, like, it doesn't matter if you're single, married, like, marriage is hard and singleness is hard. Like, both have its hard, but both have its gifts. And mhm. It is, yeah, I don't know. You're losing my train of thought.
It's okay. Yeah, I was just, I'll give you a little example. Like, I think for men in the church, there's this desire, a God-given desire to be like a leader, desire leadership. And you often hear, oh, once you don't desire leadership anymore, that's when you'll be ready for leadership.
Oh, yeah.
And it's this kind of this pressure where then you have all these guys that are kind of like, okay, I'm going to pretend like I don't want leadership. Can I have a leadership role now? And it's kind of this funky thing where you're like, well, the desire's there. It's not going to go away. How does that work? I'm supposed to not desire it, and then that way I can desire it. And the reason I bring that up is it sounds like a similar pressure to singleness for women, where they say, hey, you need to be content and not desire marriage and not like be focused on it. And then you'll get it, right?
Yes.
And so then you have all these women who are secretly like, okay, let me try to pretend like I'm not interested in marriage.
But you're actually dying
But
inside.
you're actually dying inside.
Yeah. I think to do that well, like, God's version of that is like you have to be raw and honest with him. Like, you can't be fake with God. You can be fake with people, but you can't be fake with him. And it's in that honesty where, God, you don't feel like enough right now. And I want you to be, but I'm not there yet. And I'm reminded of in Genesis where it said, it is not good for a man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. And so there is a design of God where we desire like a companionship. And it is probably one of the hardest things I feel like we are wrestling through right now, because the world is sick with loneliness. And the loneliness can feel so crippling, where it's like to I have to make all these decisions, hard decisions by myself. I have to take care of myself. Like, I have to look out for myself. I don't have the privilege of having another person to like be there for me. So it's kind of, you're kind of forced into the position where God has to be everything. Because there is a loneliness even in the church and even in community, because it's not going to fulfill like the role of family in your life. It just doesn't. And so, you have, I mean, I for sure have done that. And it is God walking me through the raw, vulnerable, honest conversations with myself, like, and with Him. Because if we don't have authentic, like, relationship with God, then it's not real, you know? And yeah, I would say that's the prescription for that question. Like, that's the answer. And you also have to trust that God can do the rest in your heart. Like, it's actually His job to sanctify and transform us. It's not our job to fix ourselves. We kind of just fall in the right direction, and He kind of does the rest.
What would you say when all is said and done? Like, after all the things that you've been through, all the suffering, the loneliness, the pain, the comparison, the frustration, like, when all's said and done, what do you know to be true?
The truth is that we serve a God that is so big, and that He actually really cares about the desires of our heart more than we do. And if that truth is just ironclad in our souls, that God really does care, because the second that we stop believing that He cares, like, we are on a bad path. But realizing, okay, God has the power to do this. He can. If He wanted me to be married, I'd be married tomorrow. It's not that He's not willing to do it. And He actually wants to. It is learning that truth that has really set me free, like, to live in freedom, but also not removing my heart from the equation. So it's like, I can be free, but also I still feel things. So it's navigating those two things, and still choosing Him and walking in His ways, and hearing His voice, and loving Him, even if it's doesn't make sense. And there is a mystery that I feel like if I got married tomorrow, like, I will look in hindsight of, okay, this is what God was doing. And coming into that reality now, even before it happens, I feel like that is the key piece.
It's a powerful word. Jenna, thank you so much for just being honest and real.
You're welcome.
Hey everybody, thanks for clicking on this video. The heart behind God's stories is to let people know they're not alone. And if you want to help support that message, click the link in the description.